Most of us save and invest money, well, to make more money. Today's guest, Terry Rasmussen, is the CEO of Thrivent, and this is a company that has learned how to make money a tool, not only for financial security, but for a better, healthier life along the way. This is the Dan Buettner Podcast, where we open the aperture on longevity for living not only a longer, but better life. Well, I think people are going to be in for a really pleasant surprise with this, because I think most people think of money as a way to give us independence or security. But your company, Thrivent, uses that as a tool for something much bigger in a very counterintuitive way. And before we get to that, I just want to point out that you're the first CEO I've interviewed on the Dan Buettner Podcast, really the first, company I've talked about, because Thrivent so is in line with Blue Zone's value. I don't know of another company more in line with Blue Zone's values. I struck off almost 20 years ago to find these areas where people live statistically longest, and came back with a set of lessons or insights on how to live longer that didn't line up at all with the way what people thought led to longevity. At the time, it was running marathons, taking vitamin E, the Atkins diet. And I came back with, people who have a sense of purpose live longer, and people who belong to a faith, and people who connect socially. And that longevity was not an individual pursuit, but an active community. And lo and behold, here's a financial services company in my hometown that has been building for 120 years on those same values and become massively successful. And you, Terry, are at the helm with a fantastic story. So I'm going to start out with you, but then I'd like to then segue into how Thrivent is thinking about money vastly differently and producing amazing results. You started your career picking rocks on a farm in rural Minnesota, and now you're running a company that's generating $10 billion a year in revenue. Unpack that a little bit for me.
Well, first, it's great to be here. And yes, I do have the privilege of leading an amazing organization. Thrivent is an amazing organization. But yes, I grew up on a farm, a grain farm in west central Minnesota. I was a middle child. And, on the farm, it's like we all worked. And so, my first job was picking rocks. And of course, then, you move on to driving trucks and
Wait, for those of us who've never picked rocks, tell us a little bit about what picking rocks involve.
Well, it's not a very pleasant job, shall we say, but, rocks do actually grow out of the ground. And most people, don't realize that you think once you're done, you're done. But no, every year they kind of emerge. And so you would go and literally pick the rocks out of the ground and throw them on, a flatbed. And the flatbed, you'd move it a little bit and you'd continue picking rocks and for the purpose. And so that when you were tilling, and planting, you wouldn't harm the equipment.
Got it. Who knew? I think people think you plow and plant, but you got to get the rocks out there
right.
first. I've heard you think of your career in kind of 3 chapters. Working on the farm, I think you were a dental hygienist for a while. You went on to work for the Justice Department before you got to be a CEO of this wonderful organization. But it's somewhere along that journey, you found your purpose. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Again, it does go back to the farm. And, my dad in particular always told us 3 kids that you've got to find what you love to do because you have to do it a long time. And in my case, it wasn't real obvious. But what I discovered, particularly when I was in school to become a dental hygienist, is I love to learn. And so for me, it's all about learning and learning in a way where you're helping others. It's, from a young age too, I was a candy striper. We volunteered in our community, and it was really important for me to give back and be what I would call a productive person in my community.
How did that lead to working for the Justice Department?
Well, it relates to the love of learning. And so in my particular case, my dental hygiene program was 2 years. And when you love learning, you want to go back to school. And so I went back and got my four-year degree in accounting. And at the time, I wanted to go to graduate school. And so my mother was a little nervous. She thought I was going to be a perpetual student. But I
Not
did.
alone.
I did go to law school. And then graduating from law school, I was invited to be a part of the Attorney General's Honors Program at the Justice Department Tax Division in Washington, D.C.
And your boss gave you a little bit more latitude than you'd normally think an attorney for the IRS would have. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I do. And in fact, it was a gift that he gave me that I share with others now. He called me into his office and he said, "Look, Terry," he said, "there's only 2 ways you can get fired from this joint. You can blow a statute of limitations or you can miss a request for admissions." He goes, "Everything else is fixable." And so that gave me the gift of try, and try things. Don't be afraid to try something and realize it may not turn out. And that freedom and that spirit of what's the worst that can happen has lived with me and really, I think, helped me in my career all these years.
And from there, you somehow end up at a company that's now called Thrivent. And you're running this enormous organization. You're doing it very successfully, imbued with values. And how do you go from the IRS to CEO of a...
Well, it does come back to that learning and trying to make a difference. And so I came to Thrivent in 2005 as their general counsel. I had a background in financial services, and so I understood the regulated entity part of it. But what I wasn't as familiar with was the fraternal side of it, the giving back, the mobilizing our clients to give back into their communities. And so I fell in love with Thrivent, because Thrivent was just this amazing organization. It was we say it's the original purpose-based company because the people that we serve, they want to know, for them, money is just a tool. It's not a goal. They want to know they're going to be okay financially so that they can live their life each and every day and lead a life of purpose and meaning for them, which really aligned with my values. And so being a part of this organization was just such a gift for me because I get to work for an organization where I can fulfill my purpose at the time I'm working for this organization. And so I was the general counsel for 10 years. And then my boss, I remember sitting in his office in a Friday afternoon in July, and we were doing org design, and it came to the point where we were talking people. And I said, "I assume you want this person to run the core business." And he said, "No, Terry, I'd really like you to consider it." And as someone who had always self-identified as a lawyer, I was I got this look of terror on my face. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." But I really thought about it and thought, here's an opportunity for me to see if I can move to the business and even make a bigger impact. And so I did. And 3 years later, the board then named me the CEO.
That's a huge leap, and it's a continuation of an amazing legacy that begins with something called a fraternal benefit society. And I'm going to ask you to talk about this. It goes back to 1905, which we're still living today, and it's a big idea for people, by the way. In Okinawa, there's this notion of a moai, which I map to longevity. A moai is sort of a committed circle of friends who support each other in bad times and good times. And it began actually as, I think, a version of this fraternal benefit society. Friends would get together. Every time they got together socially, they would chip in some money. And that pool of money was available for one of these farmers if a child got sick or if the crop failed, they need to buy seed the next year. And in 1905, it's among Lutheran farmers. It was a bit of a moai, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. And, the premise was, again, that you came together in community. And, if at that point in time, if something happened, you pass the hat. And your neighbors, your community actually contributed. And so that, we took care of each other. And that evolved and morphed. And, it's we've been around for over 120 years now. And that concept of coming together to care for one another and take care of your neighbors is something that resonates with a lot of people. And it's really the source of our strength as an organization and our tremendous growth.
Who knew? But, we live in a time, I think, where so many of us are looking out for ourselves or our tribe. And this is a completely different idea when it comes to financial management and financial services. I think of the gladiator ring of the free market, of the stock market, where people fight for every percentage of a cent of return. How do you attract customers? And you have a lot of customers who come here with a completely different value proposition. I mean, I know you produce a really good return for your clients, but you produce something else. That's not the core value proposition, is it?
It's not. It's not. It's the business we're in. So we are very good at helping people achieve financial security and managing their money. We do that extraordinarily well. But I think what distinguishes us is our approach to advice for our clients. We are expert listeners. We listen to what they want to achieve with their lives. And most of the time, if not all the time, it's not about accumulating wealth for wealth's sake. It's about knowing that they're going to be okay, their families are going to be okay financially, and so that they can then live the life that they want to, which is always about coming to the aid of others, giving back to their communities, handing down the values that they have around service, faith, and money to their kids and their grandkids. And we get the privilege of helping them do that.
I'm going to ask you a really hard question here because, people work their whole life and a lot of Americans don't have enough money for retirement. Something like 50% of people don't even have 2 years of saving for retirement. What do you say to a client who is thinking about placing their wealth management with Thrivent, who says, well, how are you going to maximize my money when people are worried about, will I have enough money when I retire?
People find us, to be honest, because we meet people where they're at. We actually find out what's really important to them, and then we help them achieve that. And oftentimes when our clientele overwhelmingly believes money's just a tool, it's not a goal. So they're not saving to have the big house on the beach or the big boat. Our clients are incredibly good savers. That's the one thing. They save really well, but they're saving and so that they can live the life that they want to, which is a life of service and actually a life of purpose, which is when we talk to them, that's basically what they want. They want to enjoy life and feel like they can contribute to society each and every day of their lives.
And by the way, I can add something else to your portfolio. We know that people who have a sense of purpose live about 8 years longer than people who are rudderless. And to think that I can come to an organization that will help me manage my money, manage my savings, maximize my savings, but at the same time, give me a sense of life-extending purpose. Now, that's a giant value proposition you can't get across the street, can you?
That's right. And, I'm smiling because we have a lot of clients that reach 100, and one of the things I get to do is I send them a birthday card for their 100th birthday. And last year I got a thank you note from this woman. And first of all, I was amazed. It was handwritten, and her handwriting was amazing for a 100-year-old. But she was so grateful of, the community that she had with Thrivent. And so she told me how she spent her day, and she said, it's my belief in God and the fact that I have this wonderful community that makes me young. And so, that's a testament to, yes, community and being a part of something bigger than yourself really does extend your longevity.
Yeah, I interviewed 450 centenarians, 100-year-olds for Blue Zones. All but a handful said they belong to a faith-based community. So there is something about belonging to a faith that stacks the deck in favor of longevity. Purpose, I think, is used almost as a cliche. People don't really understand always what it means, but I've thought about it. And when you think of what purpose really is, it's the convergence of knowing your values, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you like to do, and having an outlet for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think what's really cool with us too is we also give them the outlet because most of our clients love giving back to the communities. And so we have engagement programs for them where, they can actually give back to their communities. They can actually invite their kids and their grandkids and their friends and families to participate. And so that they can feel the joy of volunteering and giving back to communities as well.
I think I read that last year, your organization occasioned 17 million hours of volunteer time.
That's right. That's right.
And how did you get that done?
Because of those engagement programs. I mean, we serve amazing clients, amazing people. And they come to the aid of others like nobody's business. And they volunteer their time. They're passionate to give back to their communities. And as a result, they're passionate about Thrivent too, which is great.
Can you give us a good example of one of your programs that you're particularly proud of?
Well, I'm particularly proud of action teams. And action teams, we asked our clients many, many years ago, what's the most important thing, as a part of this organization? And it really was giving back. We now have this simple program called Action Teams. It's you can apply online. We're going to seed you with up to $250 for your idea. And then we just ask you, how many people are you inviting and what are their t-shirt sizes? And so we send them t-shirts and some material. We now, I think, are up to 18 million t-shirts out there.
Wow.
And you see them everywhere because they're really comfortable. Live generously.
Oh, I love that.
And every year we have a new design and our clients, they pick the color and the design. And so that's fun to see. But the action teams is if you have an idea, we're going to give you money and help you seed it. And then all we ask is that you tell us, how it went. And so it's up to people's imaginations. And so our most common ones are, feeding people. And so think about you want to send kids to camp, you're going to use that money to buy groceries. And so you can do a spaghetti dinner. We've had early on, we had an action team of young girls. There were like 5 young girls and they cooked a meal for the homeless in San Francisco. And, it's up to your imagination. But if you're struggling with what to do, we also have action teams in a box. And so we'll give you some ideas too. We have probably last year, I think we had something like 190,000 action teams across the country. And if you think about anywhere from, usually 10 to 15 people are involved, we're mobilizing millions of people in these very episodic events across the country. They have raised and given back to their local communities over $2 billion through that program. Another program we have is disaster relief. And so we all remember the fires in Altadena, California. Again, our clients rise to the occasion and they will contribute and help people. We also had our engagement teams in California go into the communities and help them navigating, insurance claims and all the financial distress that they were under. And it's what we do.
That's so powerful. Not only for the good, but there's good research that shows that volunteers have lower BMI. So it's actually a weight loss strategy, lower rates of cardiovascular disease, and lower healthcare costs. So volunteering is not just good for people out in your community, it's good for you.
That's right.
Sometimes people need a couple reasons to do something like that. So it is so powerful that you're focusing on that. And I cannot imagine a Wall Street firm sitting around thinking about how we can help our clients live generously. Yeah, they're all thinking about maximizing shareholder value or quarter returns. And
the beauty with us too is, our clients kind of own us. And so, we want to make sure that we're listening to what they need. We want to make sure that we're delivering, and what they say is the most important to them.
What would you say to a son or daughter who is 18 or 22 and heading off into the workforce and they say, Mom, what advice do you have for me for saving for my future, for managing my finances for greatest health and wealth and happiness.
I think young people today, especially that age group, they are so they are so about giving back to their communities. They are so about,
Really, the
oh
Gen
yes,
Zs?
oh my gosh, they are in a huge way. They want to come to the aid of others, which is why our model here is so appealing, I think, to them, because they do want to leave the world a better place. They do care about their neighbors. And we have the ability to help them do that. And it's, volunteering. It is finding out what they really care about and making the space for that. And so that can give them great joy. And then being just responsible. We have this great program and it's particularly important, I think, for people getting started, Money Canvas. It's also a program that, quite frankly, is free. And we help people actually identify where they're spending their money. And we don't judge, it's coach. We have coaches that talk about them and help them then figure out, well, how would you redistribute your dollars in a way that you want? And what we find is, I think the most recent research, and we've had well over 10,000 families that we've helped now. But on average now, I think it's $400 a month these families are finding to actually put towards saving or, in areas where they want to redirect those dollars.
So they're just some money slipping away that they're not
Yep.
paying attention to, that they don't
Yep.
need to. This is really a big idea. I work with Gallup. Gallup has collected data on 2 million Americans, and they found a causal relationship between financial security and BMI. In other words, if you can manage your finances so you can get more secure with them, you will actually lose weight. It's causal. It's not a correlation. It's the causal. So, what you're giving people, I know this is sort of a values-based, we're in it for purpose. We're in it for doing good for our communities and our clients. But you're actually making people healthier, and it's something that I've recognized. I've been somewhat associated. I visited your headquarters 15 years ago, and we were resonating them. So I'm so pleased to come together now.
Well, and I think, if you think about our clients, and I remember, so my dad and my I have longevity in my genes. My dad lived to 93, my mom 98 and a half. And my dad in particular, health was a huge component for him. There was periods of times where he was not healthy, and he was like, I'm not able to do what I love to do, which is, he loved farming, but he also loved giving back to the community, volunteering, and doing what was really his purpose. And he said, you can only do that if you feel good and if you're healthy. When you're not healthy, he goes, life isn't as good. And so I think helping our clients to extend that life so they can be healthy in not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and financially, it's important for them to be able to lead the kind of life that they want to lead.
It's this beautiful, mutually supporting cluster of things, of financial security, purpose, faith, giving back, and they all just harmonize so well together.
They reinforce, and I think even our business model, we call it the Virtuous Heart. We drive impact with and through our clients in local communities. So mobilizing millions of people, volunteer hours, raising dollars to give back to local communities, actually working in the communities to make them better is a huge part of our business model. We do deliver great value to our clients. I mean, our products and services we're incredibly proud of. We want to make sure that we're really doing well by our clients and Thrivent. We're also financially incredibly stable and strong. And when we get those two things going, we know that we grow then as an organization. We're actually more meaningful in the financial lives of our clients. And so we have much deeper relationships with our clients there. So they can again not have to worry about their financial lives. And so they can lead a life, that is creating impact and actually, making their communities better.
For people who would like to learn more about Thrivent, what's the best way to do it?
You can go to thrivent.com. We are in social media, so you can find us.
Thrivent at TikTok?
we are on TikTok,
There we go.
and check us out. We have clients across the country. We have amazing networks across the country, and if you know a Thrivent client, likely they'll invite you to an action team or they'll invite you to some engagement event. If you really do believe that money's just a tool and you want to make a difference in the lives of others,
Yes.
we're for you.
I always say the brand of Blue Zone's longevity is not just getting to 100, it's enjoying the journey. And it sounds like you have a very similar attitude.
That's exactly right. One of my favorite stories is our clients are also generous. And so we started, I think 30 years ago now, Thrivent Charitable. It's donor advised funds, legacy planning, and the like.
Mhm.
And I was on that board for 9 years. And every year we'd go to a different city and we'd either have lunch or dinner with the clients of Thrivent Charitable. And these were retired pastors, retired school teachers, small business owners, and I would sit with them and they'd go, Terry, we never thought we'd be philanthropists, but here we are. We're philanthropists.
What a great title.
And they were volunteers, and they said, because of Thrivent, we're able to extend our legacy of giving into retirement.
Well, I salute you, and I say this not only to you, but everybody listening and all the Thriving clients. I look forward to seeing you when you're 100.
Thank you.
Thank you.